Hello, Wake Up New Zealand. Carol Sathey speaking. Well, I often talk with my friends about this drag queens in libraries and why on earth would parents take their children to this adult entertaining, because it is sexually suggestive. It is for nightclubs, for adult entertainment, not for children. So it was very interesting to read this article that was in the Tennessee News in the USA, how legislation is actually starting to take off, being introduced in the US as to anti drag bills, anti drag legislations. And anti drag legislation was introduced in Tennessee. So the bill came about in March this year, and it restricts adult cabaret performances in public places or in the presence of children and bans them from occurring within 1,000 feet of schools, public places, and places of worship. It also, alongside that legislation, they passed a separate legislation that bans transgender minors in Tennessee from receiving gender affirming care, such as puberty blockers, hormones, and surgery. So that would include chest binders, etc. Other state legislators are pushing similar bills as to anti drag queens. These found to be violating the anti-drag queen law have in places charges punishable for a fine up to 2,500. So if they're seen to be breaking the law, the drag queens or drag those in drag, that's punishable for up to $2,500 in fine or 1 year in prison. If they're found to have subsequent violations, then that could mean punishable up to 6 years in jail. So the Tennessee Senate leader, Jack Johnson, the drafter of the state's anti-drag show bill, said in an interview, he referenced an example. He said, just as the current law prohibits admitting children into sexually suggestive drag shows, therefore there should be an age restriction where a minor is present. So maybe that's what we should be looking at in New Zealand to counterproduct what's going on right now. There's drag queen shows in libraries. So it's sexually suggestive. So council funded. Your money is funding this. So this is serious food for thought. So just as current law prohibits strip shows from admitting children, this legislation could also do the same. Sexually suggestive drag shows from being performed on public property or on non-age restricted private property or council property where a minor could be present. School libraries. So what about enforcement when it comes to, say, Pride Week and children? Or, and pride parades. Well, these are public places with sexually suggestive appearances of drag in public places. And could this even apply? What about drag queen weeks for schools? After all the police, Posey Parker event, they stood by and watched law-abiding citizens aggressively attacked by LGBTQ plus community. This type of law could solve this problem, not letting the government or police off the hook with this one, because they allowed aggressive criminal act to happen just because they say that the LGBT community are passionate in what they believe in. And yeah, and so are murderers and so are rapists. After all, drag queens in libraries advertised as family fun. They call it family fun. Is entertainment by drag queens, artists that are suggestively sexual, using coercion and indoctrination. So in the places in America where the legislations are actually being proposed right now, and some have already taken off, are North Dakota, Texas, West Virginia, Nebraska, South Carolina, and others are actually advancing those bills and legislations. So over in America, this is what's happening. But in New Zealand, if you did something like this, you could go to prison for 5 years for even suggesting it. So if I suggested that there was counselling for those young people, children who have gender dysphoria, the counsellor could be fined, could be taken to court, put in jail, and so could I. As it appears, there's only one way that this government actually deals with this is through surgery, chest binders, hormones, puberty blockers. Any other alternative way comes under the ban conversion therapy legislation, which means that parents, when talking with their children about this, can actually be fined and imprisoned. This is what is going on in New Zealand. Caring about your child and discussing these things alternative to this surgery, chest binders, puberty blockers, hormone treatments, can land you in prison. Will they bring anything like this out? I doubt it. But we need to actually start thinking about this and doing something about it. It's coming up to election, so I'm hoping that some political party might take this on and use it. The anti-drag bill, an anti-drag policy. Wake up, New Zealand.